This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Canada and the U.S. have agreed to pause tariffs against each other for at least 30 days. The development comes after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke twice today to President Donald Trump. It has many breathing a collective sigh of relief for now. But as Olivia Stefanovich explains, the agreement wasn't reached right away.
And he can probably...
For the first time since returning to the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau not once but twice today.
And we had a good talk in the morning.
But unlike his call with Mexico's president, who agreed to send 10,000 soldiers to the U.S.-Mexico border in exchange for a one-month tariff deferral, Trump didn't extend the same reprieve to his northern neighbor.
Look, what I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state.
It took a second call between the two leaders for Trump to agree to pause tariffs for at least 30 days, while Canada cracks down on illegal migrants and fentanyl. But with the threat of levies still looming.
I'm angry and upset that we're being targeted in this way, and we are going to stand up.
For me, it's not a complete victory. For me, I still think that Mr. Trump want to attack Canada.
But there are calls for Canada to do more.
Immediately deploy military troops, helicopters, and surveillance to the border.
The idea of militarizing the world's largest undefended border, supported by Saskatchewan's premier, as a way to de-escalate the situation.
We also need to do what we can to work alongside our largest trading partner.
Instead, Trudeau says nearly 10,000 frontline personnel will work on protecting the border. Canada will list the cartels as terrorists, appoint a fentanyl czar, and spend $200 million on a new intelligence directive to tackle the illegal drug and organized crime. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, before the tariffs were placed on hold, Manitoba was prepared to impose measures of its own on the United States. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us live in the studio. So, Bartley, what was Manitoba prepared to do?
Well, yesterday, Premier Wab Kinew described Donald Trump's proposed tariffs as not just an attack on Canada's economy, but an attack on Canada's sovereignty, and he proposed countermeasures. The first was a pledge to remove American liquor from government store shelves, from Liquor Mart shelves. He wanted to take aim at $80 million worth of U.S. sales a year and encourage consumers to buy Canadian liquor instead.
As long as I'm the Premier, we are going to continue standing for the Maple Leaf, and we're going to continue shouting True North every time we sing the anthem. And if you have to switch to Crown Royal as part of us upholding that patriotism, I think that's a pretty good deal.
Well, right now, the Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey is staying right where they are on Liquor Mart shelves, along with a separate Kinew pledge made earlier today to prevent American firms from bidding on Manitoba government contracts. But even now, with the tariffs on hold, Kinew says that Canada has to diversify its economy away from exporting to strictly U.S. markets.
This is very much going to be a situation that continues to play out over the long term. There still is that threat of tariffs in the future, and so we have a responsibility to continue to take those long-term steps to ensure that our economy is Trump-proof in Manitoba.
Manitoba exports about $15 billion a year to the U.S., including goods such as medications, canola, and farm equipment.
So, Bartley, you spoke to some Manitobans about the Premier's proposed responses to the tariffs. So what did you hear from people?
Well, you know, unscientific samples of people you speak on the street, but I spoke to one man. He said Trump is trying to save Canada. Another said he appreciated Kinew's gesture to pull the liquor from shelves, but said it really won't accomplish anything. It would be symbolic. And I also spoke to this man, Peter Mason.
Well, Canada, in my opinion, should just cut off the gas, cut off the water, cut off the electricity, because we supply almost all their northern states. And I think if we did a smart move like this, it might wake Trump up a little bit.
In 2023, Manitoba exported about $700 million worth of hydroelectricity to the United States and $600 million worth of oil and gas. Brittany.
All right, that was CBC's Bartley Kivas. Thank you, Bartley. Well, despite the tariff threat being pushed, there is still uncertainty for so many people who will potentially be impacted. It was a worry many Manitoba farmers faced all weekend long, and with the threat of tariffs still looming, one that won't be going away just yet. Well, grain farmers in Winkler say they should be focusing on plans for spring planting. A budding trade war has them concerned about selling their stock. Tobin Dick says the impact of tariffs could ripple into the global competitiveness of his crop prices. He says farmers are forced to take whatever price grain elevators set for their commodities based on buyer demand. Counter tariffs could also increase the cost of inputs his farm needs to function.
As soon as we start dealing with lower commodity prices and then higher costs for things like machinery, fertilizer, and all the other inputs, that'll be really hard. I think a lot of people are on the edge right now, and this might push them over.
The Canola Council of Canada says tariffs would have widespread impact. Canola oil was one of the top 5 exports from our province in 2023. Exports to the U.S. alone represented at least $1.3 billion for Manitoba's economy that year. The council says the U.S. is by far the largest market for exports from this sector of the Canadian agro-industry.
Certainly, farmers will unfortunately feel the impact of this in a number of different ways. In terms of the marketing options that they have for their crop and the potential price that they can receive for that. So the impacts will be very real in terms of cash flow and profitability at the farm level.
Now, news this afternoon about the tariff delay broke just as Premier Wab Kinew and Justice Minister Matt Wiebe wrapped up an announcement on money laundering. The province says it's bringing in new measures to fight drug trafficking. CBC's Cameron McLean joins us now live to tell us more. And Cameron, what did the province actually announce today?
Well, Manitoba is directing all casinos to report suspicious activity directly to local and federal law enforcement. Up until now, Manitoba Liquor and Lottery staff would make reports to FinTrack, the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada. Here's Wab Kinew speaking at Club Regent Casino.
That will help people build cases, that will help officers conduct investigations, and that will help to hold people accountable who are responsible for the scourge of toxic drugs that we're seeing, fentanyl and many other damaging drugs that we're seeing in our communities here in Manitoba.
So we know U.S. officials have cited concerns about money laundering in Canada as one of the reasons for threatening to impose tariffs. So was this move done in response to those particular threats?
Kinew says no. This decision is first and foremost about cracking down on criminal organizations in Manitoba.
But if we can do this at a time where strengthening the relationship with the United States of America and the American people, well, then I think that that's a win-win, as we could call it.
Kinew says he will be communicating the fact that Manitoba has taken these actions to U.S. officials. He plans to be in Washington, D.C. next week with other premiers.
So, Cameron, what difference does the province hope that this will make to the way it actually investigates money laundering?
Jerry Sewell, president and CEO of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, says this will speed up the process of investigating financial crime.
I think it's important to, again, have all eyes, on the situation, and that, again, local law enforcement will have, different insights into the ability to kind of combat it, and it might support some of the work and projects that they're doing as well.
The province also says it will add staff and equipment to its anti-money laundering team, and it's spending $325,000 for new surveillance equipment for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. Brittany?
All right, that's CBC's Cameron McLean. Thank you, Cameron. And there's Riley Lachuk. He is back from vacation, and boy, oh boy, Riley, what a day to come back.
Yeah, no kidding. Busy day today, busy day weather-wise as well, Brittany, because we're looking at a wide range of weather in the next few days here for much of the province. So I'm going to start with this extreme cold warning that we've got in place for Tadoule Lake, Brochet. Could see wind chills as cold as -45 overnight tonight. Into the Westman region, Dauphin, Riding Mountain National Park, looking at wind chills closer to -40 overnight. Again, this is frostbite on exposed skin in 20 minutes or less. So we are looking at another cold night across the province tonight. We've cleared out thanks to high pressure that has really set in, and that's really going to keep us clear for the next day at least. And then things are in for a bit of a change here. So today getting up to minus 19 in Winnipeg, minus 20s, minus 21s back to the west. So certainly these temperatures now about 10 degrees colder than normal for this time of the year. Minus 17 in Swan River today, minus 20 in Thompson. So sinking down to minus 26 overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, northwest winds at 10 tonight in Winnipeg, looking at minus 25 first thing in the morning. So another chilly start tomorrow, Brittany. And we're looking at another below seasonal day tomorrow. A few clouds tomorrow, minus 17, pretty similar to what we saw today. But again, we've got some snow in the forecast. I'll have more on that when I come back.
Okay, welcome back, Riley.
Yeah,
Thank you. A United Church in Brandon is facing increasing harassment for its 2S LGBTQ+ advocacy. Its minister warns these messages are part of a growing threat to the greater community. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has that story.
During his Sunday worship, Minister Craig Miller asks about feelings. He says Brandon's Knox United Church has had hateful messages because it's an affirming congregation. That means they actively stand up for the 2S LGBTQ+ community. On Christmas Eve, Miller received a call suggesting he deserved to die for his work. He says these threats don't intimidate the church.
Those that are opposed to human rights for all sexual orientations and gender identities, we don't want to let them always set the agenda.
The church has increased security. It's locking doors and has greeters watching the entrance. Miller can't directly link the increase in hate-based incidents with President Donald Trump's administration, but he's hearing and seeing homophobia and transphobia on the rise and noticing people more afraid. Church member Jaden Shetler says right now, one of the biggest topics at church is the impact Trump has worldwide. He likes having a place to share.
I think it's very important for people to have their voices heard and be able to speak out with confidence without the fear of being told that your way isn't right.
Knox United Affirm Committee Chair Laura Cruikshank says people are coming together because they feel attacked.
I'm positive about the future because I think that there are a lot of people who are very concerned about this and will work together to ensure that we have a safe community.
Miller says the church will not stop championing the rights of all community members. He says a big part of that messaging is education. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
Out of Winnipeg has filed a lawsuit. The woman is an elder from Pekanjigam First Nation in Northwest Ontario and was getting on a flight home. She was leaving from the Fast Air Jet Centre terminal in Winnipeg when the incident happened in 2023. Her lawsuit says she was walking through an electronic security door when using a cane when the door suddenly closed on her. That caused her to collapse in a traumatic and devastating fall. The lawsuit says she had surgery and will continue to undergo treatment and therapy as a result of her injuries. The allegations have not been tested in court, and the defendants have not filed defense statements. And Riley Lachek is back in. I hope you enjoyed your week off, because boy, oh boy, is it a busy week weather-wise here as well right now. Welcome the cold.
Yeah, exactly. The cold is here to stay. Prolonged period, Brittany, where we're looking at temperatures staying up, low seasonal for this time of the year. And we'll mix in a Colorado low.
Yes, why not?
Yeah, why not? We'll go into the details right now. So looking at some of our daily stats from today, and I wanted to point something out to you. If you wanted a little bit of hope on the horizon here, our sunrise is now once again before 8 o'clock in the morning. Sunrise at 7:59 this morning in Winnipeg, setting just before 5:30. So those days, yeah, they're getting a little bit longer. Today we reached minus 19 in Winnipeg. Record high for this day was about 6 degrees. So that shows you where things could go. So we've been stuck under this ridge of high pressure that digs deep south into the Dakotas right now. We're seeing the edge of that ridge extending way back into Ontario, and an area of low pressure off the Pacific coast really funneling in some snow into parts of British Columbia. So kind of a busy weather day across the country today. For us, though, you can start to see this ridge here that has really set in over the prairie provinces, but behind that, the beginnings of that low that'll form in Colorado as we get into the day on Tuesday. So Tuesday starts mostly sunny. Few clouds hanging around again as that high pressure ridge continues to be in place here. It will start to break down, though, as we get later into the afternoon. You can start to see some of that cloud cover starting to build in. As we get into the overnight hours into Wednesday, you can start to see the leading edge of this snow beginning to make its way into western parts of Manitoba. We start the day mainly cloudy into the Red River Valley and into northwestern Ontario, but as we advance into the later part of Wednesday into Thursday, you can see the main event stays south of the border, but still nonetheless dragging some snow up into Manitoba and northwestern Ontario. And this is going to be an accumulating snow as we get into the rest of the week here. Can't rule out even 10 to 15 centimeters back into western Manitoba. Some of these numbers have been changing throughout the day here in the Red River Valley. Initially, I was saying more like 5 to 6 centimeters. Now looking more like closer to 10 centimeters for parts of the Red River Valley and in southern Manitoba. So we are looking at an accumulating snow as we get later in the week, toward the end of the week as well, but temperatures still staying below seasonal for this time of the year. We'll throw some wind into that as well as we head later into the week. Waking up tomorrow morning close to minus 30 once again, minus 29 in Swan River and Lynn Lake, minus 28 in Thompson, Winnipeg. We start the day tomorrow at minus 25 degrees, getting up to minus 17. Our normal high for this time of the year is minus 10, so a little bit off the mark in terms of that normal. There's that snow I was talking about as we get through Wednesday into Thursday, temperatures staying around minus 15 in Brittany. We wrap up the week with the sunshine once again, but temperatures staying below seasonal. So we're keeping the cold, and we'll throw a bit of snow in as we get into the midweek.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Uncertainty in northern Manitoba over the future of one of its biggest mining operations. Brazilian firm Vale SA has launched a strategic review, and selling its mining and exploration assets are not off the table. The CBC's Sanuda Ranawake has more.
This mine has changed owners multiple times. Now, that might happen again. Parent company Vale has launched a strategic review into this mine and other assets near Thompson. As one of northern Manitoba's biggest employers, many people are worried about a potential sale.
Yeah, some workers could maybe get laid off, who knows?
I feel like a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and potentially move out of Thompson, and then our population becomes less and less.
Others, like retired mine worker Ken Mikaluk, says it can't get much worse.
They've laid off all they can, pretty much all they can lay off. It's, I think, probably close to 35% contract workers anyway. So, no, I don't think that's an issue. I don't think they're going to just shut it down.
The United Steelworkers Union represents most of the 900 employees at the operation. Warren Lukey is president of the union local.
For the steelworkers and for the community, it is very important that we find the right person, the right company to take the ore body we're sitting on to a long-term solution.
Ethel Timbang with Thompson's Chamber of Commerce echoes what the union is saying.
I hope the new owners will invest more in the community because, it is the community that gives their workers reason to leave or to be here in Thompson. So,
CBC News reached out to Vale but did not receive a comment. The review into the sale of the operation is expected to be completed in the spring. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Thompson.
The tariffs may be on pause for now, but many Manitobans are already planning to take a closer look at the labels when they shop. CBC spoke with people shopping at the Forks over the weekend who say they plan to do what they can to support local.
This is one of those moments where we have to kind of look and support Canadians and Canadian producers and local. So I'm going to try to do my part as much as I can, whether it's purchasing local foods and products that are made in Canada or produced here in Canada.
I think everybody should do everything in their power to avoid purchasing anything in America that's sold from America. These are people, this is a country that's been our allies for decades and decades, and again, these tariffs being uncalled for, people should do everything they can to avoid supporting the American economy.
When you're grocery shopping, just looking for Canadian products or at least non-U.S. products, like buying Mexico if Canadian isn't available.
anything that we can find Canadian, we should be buying. I think this whole tariff war, it's silly. It's ridiculous that what the Trump is doing. Like, it's like he's, I don't know what, exacting some sort of revenge or some silliness, but yeah, I just don't think it's thought out well.
Now, earlier today, fears over an impending trade war sent shockwaves across North American markets. Stocks dropped sharply on Wall Street, and the Canadian dollar slipped to a historic low. CBC's Kyle Bax has that story.
A rough ride on the markets, ebbing and flowing with every announcement and comment out of the White House. Initially, the TSX fell 2.5%, while the Canadian dollar plunged to a nearly 22-year low below 68 cents US. All of this following the announcement of U.S. tariffs against Canada and Mexico over the weekend. The markets recovered much of the losses, but remained down, spooked by how tariffs could not only impact Canada, but North America and the global economy.
What to make of it? The markets have no idea what to do. We saw, of course, the obvious losers. Any Canadian company that manufactures goods, physical goods to sell into the U.S. get destroyed.
It's a highly fluid situation, a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty, but I'd say so far the reaction in the Canadian dollar, although we've seen a fairly significant drop in the exchange rate, it could have been a lot worse.
U.S. stocks are also down over the concern that tariffs will hurt many households and drive up inflation. Overall, a tremendous amount of uncertainty with more volatility expected as the tariff threat remains. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
President Trump has also paused his tariff threats against Mexico for 1 month. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says she struck a deal with Trump to delay the 25% tariffs on her country. Sheinbaum has agreed to send 10,000 members of the Mexican National Guard to the U.S. border to combat drug trafficking. In exchange, she said the U.S. committed to working on preventing the movement of high-powered weapons into Mexico. The U.S. and Mexican leaders announced the pause after what Trump described on social media as a, quote, very friendly conversation. Trump says he's looking forward to upcoming talks led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Trump is also expanding the targets of his trade war to include the European Union. Trump has threatened to hit the 27-state bloc with tariffs, saying he could impose taxes on EU goods imported into the U.S. very soon. Margaret Evans reports.
Ready or not, here he comes. That was U.S. President Donald Trump's message overnight, making it clear that the European Union should expect the same treatment on tariffs as Canada.
It will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us.
The U.S. is the European Union's largest trading partner, the EU selling more goods to the U.S. than it imports. Trump calls it an atrocity. Arriving in Brussels for an informal summit Monday, European Union leaders were bristling.
I think that we have to do everything to avoid this totally unnecessary and stupid tariff wars or trade wars.
If we're attacked on trade topics, says the French President Emmanuel Macron, Europe has to make itself respected and react. Across town at NATO headquarters, Secretary General Mark Rutte was grilled on unity within the military alliance.
Our two members, Canada and US, are on the cusp of a trade war. Do you fear the alliance is unraveling at the most fragile of times?
I'm absolutely convinced we can deal with these issues, and there are always issues between allies.
Trump seemed to indicate that Britain, now outside the EU, might win a reprieve because he gets along with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Prime Minister Starmer's been very nice. We've had a couple of meetings. We've had numerous phone calls. We're getting along very well.
Starmer, who joined EU leaders in Brussels for what he hopes will be a post-Brexit reset for relations with the EU, says Britain can enjoy strong ties with both the US and the EU.
One of the opposition leaders here, the Liberal Democrats' Ed Davey, has called on Starmer to convene a Commonwealth meeting to support Canada against what he described as a schoolyard bully. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
An Ontario father says he's struggling to keep his teenage son away from drug dealers on Snapchat. Ithel Musa with our Go Public team looks at why some say the popular social media platform is ripe for drug trafficking.
It's an app known for its fun filters, but one Ontario parent warns Snapchat is also where illicit drugs are sold.
I'm trying to keep my son safe while these drug dealers are manipulating him, because they're reaching out.
We're not identifying Roger to protect his son's identity. He says his 15-year-old has been buying drugs on Snapchat, but tracking that has been difficult for one main reason. Messages on Snapchat are deleted once they're viewed by the recipient. It's a unique feature of the app that makes it nearly impossible, say some parents, to monitor illegal activity. Getting access to drugs on Snapchat isn't just a problem here in Canada. In the U.S., relatives of more than 60 young people who've overdosed on drugs allegedly purchased on the app have filed a lawsuit that claims Snapchat's role in illicit drug sales to teens was the foreseeable result of the designs, structures, and policies Snap chose to implement to increase its revenues.
I think that Snapchat's executives belong in prison.
Sam Chapman is one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. His 16-year-old son, Sammy, died in 2021 after overdosing on a pill he purchased on Snapchat. Chapman says his son didn't know it was fentanyl.
The dose that killed him was delivered to our front yard like a pizza after we were asleep, and we found Sammy dead on the floor.
Family Center.
Snapchat says their parental control features allow parents to see who their child is talking to on the app and to report any concerns. The company also says it uses artificial intelligence to shut down the accounts of drug dealers. But this youth activist says it's not enough.
All of your messages and the photos you send, the stories you post, disappear after 24 hours. It creates this black box of social media where you don't have any record of what you sent.
And that has Roger in constant fear that his 15-year-old son will overdose.
I cried driving past a cemetery because I started thinking about, okay, if my son dies, how are we going to do this?
Roger says his focus now is keeping his son safe. And with Snapchat, it continues to be a challenge. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Donald Trump's billionaire advisor Elon Musk says he aims to shut down the U.S. foreign aid agency, USAID, and he says the president supports the move. Musk took to X in the early morning hours today to say Trump agreed to closing the government's main international humanitarian arm. USAID employees were sent a memo overnight ordering them not to come into work. 600 staffers also reported being locked out of the agency's computer systems. Musk oversees the new Department of Government Efficiency, part of Trump's effort to reduce federal bureaucracy. In the wake of the ongoing ceasefire in Gaza, many people are now able to return to their homes after being uprooted during war. But one Palestinian refugee living in Winnipeg says her family's home is destroyed, along with the city they lived in. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has the story.
Some fresh sage.
The sounds of celebration miles away are stuck in Hala Kufa's head. These children in a video sent by a Gazan friend are celebrating the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
And all the kids that were killed were kids like that. You know, they're so hopeful.
For the 47-year-old Manitoban, the news of the ceasefire is very personal.
My parents, my grandparents, all my ancestors have lived in Palestine.
Kufa is a Palestinian refugee who has lived in exile in Qatar since she was 2 years old. She immigrated to Winnipeg in 2023. In October of that year, war broke out in her ancestral homeland. All of Kufa's cousins and friends in Gaza were uprooted, and she was struck by survivor's guilt.
Every day when I went into the shower and warm water poured on me, I felt guilty for having that. Every day when I put lunch on the table, I felt guilty for having that.
She says what relatives in Gaza were experiencing was heartbreaking.
We would wake up every day and say that we've seen the worst thing that could have been seen. To be proven wrong, that no, there was always worse.
And then, after 15 months, finally, some good news.
There's been a major breakthrough in the Middle East crisis tonight. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire in Gaza and a hostage release.
In the days following the ceasefire, her cousins returned, but the reminders of war greeted them.
When they returned back to Rafah, because they live in Rafah, the streets among all the rubbles that are there are filled up with skeletons and skulls of unknown people.
Still, they are determined to rebuild.
This is my cousin's house. They are hopeful. People, even if they have one room remaining in their homes, they live in that room. They have their hopes, they have their wishes, they are dreaming of this had made people like see Palestine, realize what's been happening to them.
Her dreams for the future are simple.
To have a farm in Palestine and to have a warm cup of tea in a free Palestine.
Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley's back in now, and Riley, I feel like as you come back, so does Riley's weather roller coaster. And we are on that downswing right now of those very, very cold temperatures that are going to stick around this week. People might want to stay inside.
Yeah, if it's any consolation, once we get to that downward part that we're on now, we actually stay there for a bit. So we're not going up and down.
For a little
I know.
bit.
You know, I washed my car this weekend.
Really?
Because it was cold enough last night that A, the doors weren't going to freeze.
Yes.
But B, it was also cold enough that it wasn't going to be sloppy out.
Fair.
So,
I tried to do this weekend, and
yeah.
the wash that I went to was closed.
I probably would have lasted a day, but anyway. Yeah, you know, put the booties on the dogs for the dog walk tomorrow morning because we are looking at a cold start tomorrow. Whiskey and Aurora are ready to go with their sweaters and their booties and their winter gear. Thank you, Kendra, for sending this picture in. Kendra, I know that you are all ready for the winter, but I know it's going to be a cold one tomorrow. So minus 25 tomorrow morning in Winnipeg, below seasonal for a morning low for this time of the year. But nonetheless, we are in February, so we're expecting some of these cold mornings for sure. Up to minus 17 by the afternoon tomorrow. Temperatures climb a little bit through the day into the evening tomorrow before we see them falling back once again. So overnight temperatures, we are looking at close to minus 30 or at minus 30 in western parts of the province, minus 28 in Dauphin. This is that region where we have that extreme cold warning in place where we could see wind chills as cold as minus 40, minus 45 overnight tonight. Minus 26 in Emerson and Winnipeg, Pinawa minus 27, as is Kenora and Dryden overnight. Temperatures fairly similar across the north, close to minus 30. And again, along the far northern part of the province is when we see that risk of frostbite and that extreme cold warning in place. That's fueled by some of these very strong winds that we've seen and that we'll continue to see along the Hudson Bay coast as we get through the day on Tuesday. Gusting at times in Churchill, for example, up to 70 kilometers an hour through the afternoon tomorrow. Could see some of those gusts into Lynn Lake tomorrow. I mean, not as strong, but certainly looking at some of those stronger wind gusts throughout the day tomorrow into the evening hours, even looking at things closer to 80 kilometer an hour gusts throughout the day. Into the day Tuesday, looking at a cold start again, close to minus 30, but, you know, a nice sunny day tomorrow, looking at minus 24 in Churchill by lunchtime tomorrow, minus 20 in Churchill. Again, some cloud starts to build into northern Manitoba, along with those winds, and that chance we could see a few flurries even really into the Hudson Bay coast, maybe even as far east as Shamattawa, but certainly into Churchill, looking at maybe some flurries in the afternoon. Sunshine to start the day tomorrow across the south, and you start to see that cloud starting to build back in. And Brittany, we're looking at temperatures staying close to minus 20 throughout the afternoon hours tomorrow, and the leading edge of that snow will begin to make its way in as we get into Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Para-hockey player Peyton Vergy had lived in pain for about 8 years when she decided enough was enough. A broken ankle hadn't healed properly, and doctors were out of options, except one: amputation. Here's part of her story.
It means everything to me. It's my life. It's my passion. I don't know where I would be without it, and it's who I am. It's the biggest part of me.
My mom came home and she was like, "This is like the first time I've seen you smile in so long." I was 15, but I ended up breaking a bone in my foot or ankle that unfortunately it wasn't able to be seen on x-rays, so they didn't quite know what was going on until like 5 years later when we did an MRI and they saw there was a break in it and it did not heal properly and they didn't know how to fix it. I was very active in like any sport that I could do. Essentially in a span of 3 months the pain got so bad I just had to like stop doing everything. Like the pain got so bad that I was unable to go to school, so I had to become like homeschooled. So I approached my doctor about like if amputation was a choice, because it'd been like 7 or 8 years at that point, and I knew that the pain, it would not get any better. Like it would just continue to get worse and worse and worse. So I asked if this was like an option we can do. She said it was an option, but she had like a little checklist for me of things she wanted me to do. She wanted me to get involved in a parasport, so it was either wheelchair basketball or sledge hockey, and I used to be a hockey player, so the choice was pretty easy.
Para hockey is an adaptive sport that gives an amazing opportunity for individuals with all sorts of disabilities a place to play and have fun and feel supported and welcome. They use a bucket and 2 sticks. At the end of the sticks is usually 4 prongs that are used to propel themselves, that are also used to shoot and stick handle.
It changed quite drastically after the amputation. I remember like waking up from surgery and I cried because the pain was gone. Like I didn't feel any pain. I was just able to like be there the whole time, and now I'm able to walk again, gonna be able to run again soon. It's been everything. I can go out, I can have friends, I can do stuff.
I was born with spina bifida. I had never played any sort of hockey ever, and I had never been on the ice in general. I came from swimming originally, so I had the upper body strength, which set me up for success in this sport.
1 week, again, Alyssa, my teammate, she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, do you have any interest in like going farther? Like I could mention your name to the national team coaches." And that was when I was like, "Oh, like I could do something."
I like to think that I had a little part in that for Peyton, and I mean, she can do the exact same thing for somebody else one day, and yeah, it's super exciting.
I'm so proud of them. Their determination and their work ethic is amazing. They are amazing athletes who work hard every single day, every single practice, giving their 100% effort, and it's so amazing to watch them grow and succeed in the sport itself. Going to Norway itself is a huge accomplishment, and I'm so proud of them for representing Canada the way that they do.
Going to Norway, that was very exciting. Norway itself is like a bucket list location for me, so I was really excited to be there. I've never played on like a hockey team of all girls in my whole life, even when I was doing stand-up. So just being able to be on the ice with just like a whole bunch of women was just amazing.
These athletes are so strong, and you know the barriers they have faced in their life and they have overcome, and seeing that is so amazing, and I'm so glad that I get to be a part of that and help the sport grow and help these athletes have a place to play and advocate for them.
All right, let's have a look at your forecast for your Tuesday at a glance, looking at minus 17 in the afternoon tomorrow. Pretty similar to the conditions that we saw throughout the afternoon today. Wind chill in the morning, minus 34 in Winnipeg. Could see some gusts through the afternoon up to 20-25 kilometers an hour. So really not much of a windy day like we saw today. We'll see those winds tapering off as we get through the night tonight. West winds 20 gusting to 40 as we get through Wednesday. That's when we see that Colorado low starting to make its way through the province with some snow through the afternoon into the overnight hours into Thursday, looking at highs of minus 15 for both Wednesday and Thursday, minus 14 on the way for Friday, a mainly sunny sky. And then we get to keep the sunshine as we head toward the weekend, but temperatures much colder than seasonal for this time of the year, looking at highs of minus 16 for both Saturday and Sunday. And yep, dipping down to -20 for Monday. So prepare for some colder conditions to stick around. Well, February is one of the darkest months of the year, but people in Denmark will be able to enjoy some much-needed light in the coming months.
Maybe they can bring it on over here.
Yeah, please.
The illuminating spotlight on Copenhagen's Light Festival is our daily lift. 40 light installations are scattered around the city, including on bridges and buildings that will light up the Danish capital for the next 3 weeks. Light treasure hunts, concerts, a silent disco, and a light run are all planned to take place. Visitors can also join the walking or canal tours to see the installations, and the festival's app offers an interactive map.
Joyful. I feel joyful after that. It was really, it heightened my mood. It was really nice.
I have felt a lot of old love coming back, and it's just another time, another vibe.
Maybe people will feel enlightened by the light that is here.
Now, according to the organizers, the festival is the largest light art festival in Europe in the number of artworks they have on display here. It runs until the 23rd of February. Kind of like the lights on the exchange that we have going on right now as well.
And it almost gives like a Nuit Blanche vibe as well.
Exactly.
Maybe we need something else in these cold, dark times of winter
bundle
here.
up for this one, though.
If you're heading outside anywhere here, but we're going to have Festival coming up pretty soon. So lots of interesting and cool things happening in Winnipeg as well.
It's great weather. You just have to dress for it, right?
Exactly.
Just pick the right outfit.
No bad weather, just bad clothing.
Exactly.
And on that note, we're going to say goodbye and hope you have a safe and warm evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.